Hello and welcome to another episode of Taking Back Saturday, a Happy Buyers Club podcast where we break down the real estate market each and every Friday and help buyers build confidence, follow a process and hopefully buy really well. I'm your host Chayse Jones, and joining me for the very first time, unprecedented for a Taking Back Saturday podcast, is the very brave and very accommodating Michael Garcia, lead agent at Place Woolloongabba. Welcome, friend.
Hey mate, how are you?
I'm sure everyone that's watching this on YouTube is like, wow, Sam, what a blow up. Thank you. Hey, obviously, there's a lot of irony in the title of our podcast, Taking Back Saturday, because for our buyers that are listening, that's what they're trying to do. They're trying to get in and get out, take back their Saturday, but the irony probably is that you're going to be working those Saturdays.
I don't take back my Saturdays.
It's going to be, what possessed you to become a real estate agent?
I don't know, man. It's always something I wanted to do. Like I was doing it from when I was really young. So, straight out of school I was in it. So
yeah, right. Straight out of high school, straight into real estate.
Yeah. It's been literally from high school straight out 7 years later.
Were you the kind of kid in private school that was like, when I grow up, I want to be a real estate agent?
No, man. I was the kid that had like the strict ethnic parents. Like, I was always working.
You were being a bricklayer.
Yeah. It just came about, man. We were in like I was in grade 10 and we were out looking for houses. My parents were going to upsize at the time and we just were going around. The energy was good. Like it just felt like the type of thing I wanted to get into. So
yeah, right. So it just came naturally that you're like, I like people enough, I guess, and I like property enough that this is going to be a really nice sort of balance.
Yeah, I can talk. So, I'm a bit of an outgoing person. So it just felt right. So I did a bit of work experience on it and then, got into it.
If you rated real estate, what do you reckon you would have been known?
I don't know, man.
Podcast start?
Definitely wouldn't be a concrete like my dad. I'm too skinny for that, bro.
Okay, so obviously trying to add a little bit of value here for our buyers, and a lot of buyers that we speak to are also sellers.
Yeah.
Now, it's just the reality of, a lot of people purchasing, they're a transition buyer.
Yeah.
And we get asked a lot, like, how do I pick a good sales agent? And it's something that they ask our advice on, and sort of, it'd be good to know, like, how do you think people should go about picking a sales agent? And what's going to make them make the right choice on the right agent in their situation?
Look, selling a property is pretty freaking hard. Like, it's a big deal, So there's a lot of factors that come into it. And, I think understanding, one, the marketplace that you're in, what your type of property is as well, and what agent caters for that. Yeah. I think that's a pivotal part of it, but also just making sure it's the right fit for the property. So we're a bit different with the way that myself and sellers do things. We're a bit more, laid back in our approach. We don't come in guns blazing, but, at the end of the day, when it comes to the deal and bringing buyers in, we're squeezing every bit of juice from the lemon, essentially. So letting them on.
Well, we certainly have a similar, I think it's probably why we've always gotten along so well. It's because we have a very similar way that we operate with our buyers. We're trying to make it as easy as possible for you. We're trying to have a bit of fun along the way in what is a very emotional time, whether it is buying or selling. But when it needs to get serious, it gets serious. And that's right. You're there to get a result, just like we're there to get a result for our buyers.
Exactly. Like you're employed to do a job, and buyers agencies and real estate agents that are selling, we don't have complicated jobs. I think a lot of the time people overcomplicate it into making the whole process a lot harder than it is. And at the end of the day, your buyer wants to purchase a property for the best price possible. My seller wants to sell for the absolute highest price, and when you're transparent and black and white throughout the process, you seem to find a happy medium where the buyer comes to a level that the seller's happy to accept.
Yes. Well, I know from our side of things, and this is probably something that we've noticed a lot dealing with, the better part of 2,000 agents operating in the greater Brisbane area, is that it does fall down to that. It's communication. And you're the type of agent that picks up his phone, returns a call, always follows up. And that is something that is not reflected across every agent. I can promise you that. Saturday afternoons look pretty different when you've got to do 10 callbacks and there's only, 2 of them answering the phone. Of the other 8, you're getting only 2 of them that call you back. So do you think that's representative of you being a younger agent? Or do you think it's just something that some agents just aren't into?
It's just a process. So I can't speak for what people do. Like all I know is, what our team does, what our office does, and I know that we do things extremely well in terms of, our communication, there's standards there to make sure. I bought 2 years ago, and genuinely it was the most stressful process. And I do it every day, but I was an absolute head case. So it was ready to knock me out when I was coming to with these problems. So it comes down to when you've gone through the process, you understand that, I do this every day and I had that experience. A lot of buyers going through that and they've never bought before, or, the average person won't transact more than 4 or 5 times in their lifetime. So it's just trying to make it as stress-free and give them a bit of value throughout the whole process so that they can walk away going, okay, well, that wasn't as bad as I thought.
For sure, man. It is a level of empathy. We speak about this quite a lot, Sam and I, that, although it is our everyday, and truly it is every hour of every day that we are sort of in the thick of it, dealing with sales agents, but also very much dealing with client management. It's just understanding that you might have your own life, but in their life, in that moment, that's all they're thinking about. They've got an offer on the table, or they're waiting on offers to come in on their potential sale property. That's all they're thinking about. They're just recognizing that and being able to just give them a level of service, communication, advice, and just to sort of put their mind at ease, knowing that you're going to look after them. So that's a really big part of it. And that's a lot of it can come down to just a simple text message or answering a phone call.
Just pick up the phone and tell them what they need to hear. We sell property all the way from 300 grand. Last year we transacted just shy of 5.4 million for a property, and the process and communication levels don't change. It's just literally the dynamic of the buyer and the dynamic of the seller is what shifts, their needs and their wants. So, as long as you're following the process and getting back to people when they need to be spoken to, it's not going to have problems.
The rest will look after itself. The right result will happen. In terms of recommending a sales campaign, and I know you guys do a lot of auctions, but is that just the way it is, and that's your set method of sale for the most part?
No.
And is it each property and each party needs to have a specific campaign that's going to suit them?
Yeah, it's dependent on the property. If I don't think that something is going to have a beneficial outcome by going to auction, then I'll recommend to go private treaty. A lot of first home buyers get really scared off by auction, but a lot of, let's say, developers or seasoned buyers, they're comfortable with that process. So I'm not going to go and take let's say a 2-bedroom unit in Cooperoo to auction, because I know that, they want to bring through parents, they want to have the security of a finance clause, and at the end of the day, with them bidding unconditionally on a property, interest rates are still fluctuating up and down because of what's happening at the moment. And, I feel like there's also an opportunity where you're leaving money on the table for a seller, because, a buyer's not going to go and stretch to their absolute max if they need that security of a finance clause. So again, it's just picking and choosing.
Yeah, for sure. So it's identifying how can I capture the most amount of active buyers on a particular campaign based on what that property is.
Yeah.
And you're 100% right. We speak to a lot of first home buyers that their immediate thought is, auction, no, or keep scrolling.
Correct.
That's their genuine feeling, even though they probably do have the capacity to, get prepared, strategize in advance, be in a position where you can participate in an auction. They immediately discount it. And imagine if you've got, the vast majority of your potential buyers just being now I can't participate in an auction. Whereas it's probably quite the opposite with a prestige product, where it's let's get as many rich people in this room to get those bidding on this thing. And same with blocks of land, stuff like that.
It's also auctions just for the right property, auction is extremely transparent. My one thing that I hate is, and I had it with a property at the end of last year where it was a perfect property to take to auction, but my sellers weren't happy with auction. They've had a bad experience in the past. And you can't just go, if you think it's going to work, you can't just shove that down someone's throat. They've got to say it's their property. So that property there, it would have been perfect for auction. And when you go through the callbacks after and you're hearing a buyer say, I would have paid $5,000 more, I would have paid $10,000 more, but you didn't give me the opportunity. That's a positive with auction, is that it's super transparent. It just eliminates that call where they're going, I would have paid $10,000 extra, because you can see where the person next to you is bidding.
Definitely. That level of transparency is something, we we've got no trepidation with participating in auction. We think it's a fantastic format in which to, sell a property and buy a property. Because if you prepare and do the work ahead of time, it's still a great way to buy a property as well as sell it. So, how would you describe the current market? We are here on the last week of May, there or thereabouts. How would you describe the market currently?
To be honest, if you asked me 18 months ago, we would have had a different kind of perspective on things. But probably the last 6 months have been really solid growth, where it's not, we go back 2 years and even 3 years now going into COVID, and it was exponential growth. Like we saw spiking growth, and like now it's just steady year-on-year growth, where you're starting to see that, properties in Brisbane are transacting, but we're not having stupid numbers thrown out. Not that they were stupid numbers, but like, you were seeing people pay big money for properties back in 2021, where now it's kind of in line with the growth.
Yeah, whereas like people are now having to just reconcile with the fact that, month on month, there is going to be steady increases. And if you're looking at comparable sales from even, 4 months ago, that those prices have gone. Sort of reconcile with the fact that there is just a consistent, solid growth. And just for a bit of perspective, Michael works, the inner south, like it's all the southeast. The Mount Gravatt, Holland Park West, Mount Gravatt East is a specialist in those areas. So it's been, I operate in those areas as well quite a bit, and there's big numbers. Like there still feels like there's a lot of buyers out there, and not a lot of fantastic stock. Is that probably a fair status check on?
Look, I think good properties are going really well. There are some sticky ones, but I look at it in Mount Gravatt East as well, which is where I sell predominantly in, and 2 years ago, a year ago, you could buy a post-war house on 400, 500 square meters for 900 grand. I just transacted one on the weekend, which was a generous 3-bedroom. It was 2 really large bedrooms and then one which was, a sizable, but not massive.
It was tiny.
It was. It was a large 2-bed with, a study / 3rd bedroom. That was on 400 square meters and that transacted for 1.1.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's like 2 houses in from a main road. And
does that speak to that's not a spiking growth rate, but it means that steadily, this is where we've got to. And that's sort of like the benchmark now. It's almost like that's the baseline of where value sits in.
Correct. And if you're buying Mount Gravatt, you're buying under $1 million, you're doing really well.
Yeah.
But I'm starting to see now that, a lot of people are coming into that area based on being priced out of other pockets. So, I've got a lot of people that are coming from your Holland Parks, your Cooperoos to Mount Gravatt East because there's a value proposition there.
Yeah.
And, it's starting to make those areas grow. So then those buyers are, going that little bit further out as well.
Yeah, people start to understand that too. You're not just competing with the Mount Gravatt East buyers. You're competing with the leftover buyers from some of the more, let's call them blue chip suburbs.
Yeah.
Closer in. You must meet hundreds of buyers on any particular week, any particular month.
Yeah.
What makes a great buyer?
Look, just someone that, every buyer is important per se, and it sounds real estate cliche, but without a buyer, we don't transact properties. So, just having your stuff sorted and, utilizing buyer's agents is something that I recommend a lot for a buyer. And, it's just, you go through the process of purchasing and you speak with agents, and I know that people in my industry aren't the most helpful per se. I went through that process, as I said before, but, having someone that's on your side solidly working for you and really going out and sniffing out the deals that, are off market where you're not competing with 30 other buyers. People look at it and they go, okay, well, I've got to go pay a buyer's agent a fee. And it's like, yes, you pay them a fee, but at the same time, let's take it, for instance, you go through purchasing a unit. And I know that you're saying there's units in the works at the moment that are pretty hot, and you're seeing 60, 70 buyers through open homes. And, the advantage to using someone like yourself is that when you go and sniff out that deal in an off-market capacity, you're not competing with those other buyers. So there's potentially a saving of, 50, 60, 70 grand opposed to your fee. So when you do a bit of a cost benefit analysis, using a buyer's agent comes out top every single time. So I think from the perspective, and I'm not saying it because I'm on your podcast, it's like I'd be black and white if I thought that it was like, you could go and do it yourself. But, you guys are employed by the buyer because you have a skill set that's able to get them the best possible deal. And it may not just be price. It may be, for a certain buyer, their whole deal is contingent on a bit of a longer settlement, or, they're able to have a longer finance clause or a longer building and pest clause, or they're able to get a property at a better price because they can shorten those.
Yeah.
And it's just little intricacies in a deal like that where, you're able to keep a little bit more juicy than much, shall we say.
Well, I'm really glad I bought Michael his coffee this morning because I owe him for that plug. It's just getting
I don't know what you're doing in that coffee.
Got him. But look, buyer's agents are not for everyone. Not everyone can afford them. Like, just full stop. It would limit what they can buy. How can a buyer stand out? If you're meeting 100 people on the weekend, how can a buyer stand out to you so that you make sure that they're kept in the loop, that their person that gets to follow up in the afternoon is kept abreast of any movement on that particular property? How can a buyer who's doing it for themselves, in their evenings and on their Saturdays, how can they stand out?
Just come up to us, actually have a chat with us, because at the end of the day, regardless of if you're purchasing that property that you're viewing on the weekend or you're going to another property, if an agent feels like you're a genuinely nice person and you're qualified and you've got everything in order, like getting your pre-approvals and stuff before, they're going to be more inclined to kind of offer you off-market opportunities as well. If you're talking in the perspective of, a buyer coming for a property and wanting to purchase that property there, it comes down to price, conditions, settlement, you know what I mean? And then that's really, paramount when you're trying to negotiate an owner. So in the case when I purchased myself, and it's more of, from an agent's perspective, what I did was I just went, look, I'm not going to do an expression of interest form to show my commitment to the property. I'll submit my offer on a formal contract, which, it bears weight. If I'm looking at it and there's a verbal offer, I'm less inclined to think that it's of genuine nature. Where, if I've got someone who's filled out a full REIQ contract, they're going, will they be in business?
Definitely. Well, makes it a whole lot easier for that party to sign it if it's there ready to go. Yeah. Hey, I completely agree. We always offer on contracts, and we're going to get the agent to draw up a contract because it does bear a lot of weight.
Yeah.
What's your favourite piece of advice that someone has given you in your career?
Probably, there's so many. Like, there's multiple little takeaways that you take from something, but I think one of the main things, and it was literally when I came into the business working at the Gabba, and you're under Dennis Nazar and Subber and Jimmy Curtin, but the thing that always is consistent between the three of those blokes is a level of genuine honesty and transparency throughout a negotiation. Like, we've had it in the past where, we've been able to squeeze 50 grand extra out of a buyer because they didn't feel like they'll get screwed over. You know what I mean? And like, with everyone that's buying property, the best piece of advice that I can have for agents per se is just be honest. Like, just tell them where it's at. Obviously, don't do it at a detriment to your seller, but be genuine in your kind of dealings with people. And they're not going to have that standoffish wall up type of nature. It just makes the whole job easier.
So it's definitely a balance to be struck with it, and then you're entirely like, there is a way to like break that stigma of like real estate agents being the enemy, because they're really not. And for a lot of buyers out there that are listening, you do need an agent to buy a property for the most part. It's pretty rare that you can just buy it straight from the seller. So exactly right. Just give us a chance. To all our buyers listening, there may only be one Michael Garcia, but don't be afraid to pick up the phone. Speak to an agent, and it may surprise you who you hit on the other end.
And look, just buying is something where you go through a wave of emotions as well. Like I've had people in the past where they've come to auctions and they're like, we list out and flip properties. Like, what do we do? It's just like, it's a hard thing to kind of go through that conversation. It's just like, just got to Dory, friggin' finding Nemo there, just keep swimming.
Well, you'll learn that lesson. You'll learn the lesson from what happened last time. Keep following the same process and trust that it will work out.
It will work out. And like, you know, if you're genuinely having a hard time, you're trying to do it yourself, look into a buyer's agent. Have a discovery call is what a lot of people will say, but it is where, you know, you'd meet up with Chayse, and you'd go through what you want. And it could be a situation where, you know, it's an education-based call or meeting where you go, this is what I want to buy, and Chayse is going, all right, well, just in transparency with you, that's probably not going to cut it in terms of, you know, budget. You may have to look at this suburb or this suburb. This may be what you need to look at downsizing into. If you're going to stay, let's say, in Mount Gravatt, you can't afford a house, you may need to look at townhouses with a larger courtyard, so you're still getting that same feel, but you're not just going to be going and having heartbreak at every single open home you go to.
Hey, that reality check moment for a lot of people is hard for them to come by. When also speak to an industry expert, whether that is a selling agent or a buying agent, you would be like astounded the amount of like calls that we have with people where we sort of talk them through what we do, how we do it. You know, sort of do a little bit of homework with them about what they're looking for, like their must-haves, and then looking back historically at the last few months as to whether that's ever transacted. Are we looking for something that's real? Yeah. But then off the back of that call, they're like, the next follow-up with them is like, we've offered on something.
Yeah.
It almost, but it's like a cult, like it gives them confidence, or it gives them that reality check to either like keep bashing down the way they're going, either, you know, say, hey, take us away from us and like look after everything for us, or pivot and sort of go in a different direction and find that that's where they'll find success. So
and that's where you get your Sundays back, man. Like, tie it back to this freaking podcast name. Like, you know, a buyer's agent will be out there on a Saturday or on a Wednesday night or on a Thursday night, like going viewing properties, and they're sending you stuff that's already pre-qualified to what you want.
Yeah.
So you're not going around, bouncing around like a pinball machine on a Saturday.
Being like, what am I doing?
And like, you just hit a blur phase where you don't even remember the amount of times that I'll call a buyer and be like, hey, I just wanted to, you came through, you know, 5 Air Street on the weekend, and they're like, what property was that?
Exactly. Which one was that again?
I feel so bad for you, but like at the same time, it's like, it's frustrating.
The Saturday haze.
Yeah,
100%. Nice. That's why you always record every walkthrough. So if
you got Chayse going between freaking a metre to 600 mil for them around, trying to get the whole shower.
It's a bit the behind the scenes is way funnier. Like,
right, you're actually known for your walkthroughs. Like,
it's because I'm too loud. I get that. I understand it. Well, thank you so much for your time this week. It is much appreciated. Like I said, he's Michael. I'm Chayse. Cue the song.